I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Brandon Dumbuya. He is actually someone, I'm really excited about this, but I met Brandon as part of the Best Ever Conference sort of mini mastermind thing with COVID and everything having to be distance. I actually thought it was a great idea that they started these mini masterminds, and Brendan and I were in the same group and got to know him and very impressive. And I think everyone's going to really like hearing your story, Brandon. So thank you for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you, Jason. I miss our mastermind days,
me too.
I'm excited about being on here too.
Yeah, we need to get that back together. That would be great.
For sure.
But why don't we start and I'll let you kind of tell people your story, kind of where you're from and everything, and where you're going in the real estate world.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Atlanta, born and raised, so that's where I am now. I even repping the Georgia Tech. That's where I went to school for undergrad. And this is one of the most exciting things about your podcast is like it being a Know Your Why podcast, because I think that's so important. Like understanding what fuels somebody and what got them from point A to point B or where they are now. Like I think that's huge in understanding like their motivations and where they're gonna go in life. So I grew up in Atlanta, of course, born and raised. My family is from Sierra Leone in West Africa. So I grew up here. I was born here, but we moved back shortly after I was born. After my first birthday, my mom shipped me off back there, and we were supposed to live there. My dad still lived there. All my sisters grew up there, and they still live there now. But there was a civil war that brought me, my brother, and my mom back here, and we've been here ever since. So it was just like a huge difference of what my life would have been versus what it is now because of that incident. The first time I went back to Sierra Leone was when I was 14. And it was just a big culture shock seeing a developing country. And I noticed that there was a lot of opportunities and a lot of development going on, but it wasn't being done by the Sierra Leoneans themselves. So that was one of the biggest things that got me interested in real estate at a young age when I was in high school. I wanted to be able to learn how to develop communities for the better and invest in the people in those communities so I can take that skill and go back home and have an impact on my home country. So fast forward to graduation, I was still interested in real estate, but I didn't know that you could just like start doing it. I didn't know you could jump into real estate. I always thought that like if you want to do real estate on that level, that you need to already be rich or you need to have certain connections, and both of those I didn't have. So like every other real estate investor, I went to school for engineering. I went to Georgia Tech and got a mechanical engineering degree. I played football as well. Now I work for Coca-Cola in Atlanta, right across the street from Georgia Tech, by the way, in research and development. And I started getting interested in real estate. I joined RIA back in 2018, and I was doing wholesaling, trying my hand at that. Didn't really like it, didn't have a passion for it, but some people told me like, oh, that's just the way to get started without any money. And I did that and wasn't successful. I think a big part of that is like just not being interested, not having the passion for it. And when you have the passion, that makes you persistent and go through the ups and downs and bounce back from the failures. And I didn't have that, but I did learn a lot in the process. I learned a lot about real estate in general. I learned a lot about networking and what it took to make it in the industry. So I started back last year and I purchased my first property, and it was a 2-unit property, and we did a heavy value add on a heavy renovation, put in about 65 grand worth of renovation. And through that whole project, there was a lot of headaches, a lot of failures. I did a lot of things wrong, but I did enough things right to where the investment is still a great deal. And it gave me the confidence to want to move into the commercial space. From there, I started learning how to underwrite deals. I leveraged some of my skills being analytical as an engineer. I took some courses online, learned how to underwrite, found some partners, and now we're moving forward in the commercial space. And I know we'll talk about that more, so I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, no, that's great. And sort of thank you for sharing that story too. I guess well, first of all, I don't think I knew you played football. What position did you play?
Yeah, so growing up in high school, I played like strong safety in high school. So I
Nice.
was in the box, I was coming downhill, I was a hitter.
Yeah.
And then when I got to college, because I was a little smaller, I played corner at Tech. I only played for a year though, because I wanted to focus on getting the engineering degree, and it was
Yeah.
tough at a school like Georgia Tech to do engineering and football. So
Yeah,
one
I'm
had to
sure.
go. You know.
Yeah, I'm sure the caseload is or the course load is very high for uh, engineering, and I understand, as the amount of time they require of college athletes, particularly football programs. I know, I mean, I did track in college and that was a lot, but I know the football players have even, more of a commitment. So I think you've made probably the right decision. It's a lot harder to get get into the NFL than it is probably to sort of make your way in business. But no, that's really cool. So I guess you talked about the duplex, and I know that you bought the duplex, but you mentioned that there are some things you did wrong and some things you did right, and can you sort of dive into that a little bit more and tell people, sort of, again, I know a little bit of the story, but
Yeah,
what how did you find the deal, how did you purchase it, kind of all of the details on that.
yeah, for sure. So I went and found an agent. Well, first I went through Bigger Pockets, and Bigger Pockets, I gotta shout them out. Like, it's a great networking platform. If you're in real
That's
estate, you
true.
need to be out there networking. And what I did was, there's a guy named Matt Wood. He's a big time commercial developer in Georgia, and I saw him speak at a Bigger Pockets event one time. And then like a year later, I saw him on Bigger Pockets. I was like, you know what? I don't have much going for me, but I got nothing to lose. Let me reach out to him, see if I
Yeah.
can get a call. And we ended up having a call, 30-minute call, and it was great. Like, he gave me a lot of tips. He gave me a lot of things that I could work on, and gave me a lot of encouragement and helped build my confidence. And one thing that he gave me, he put me in contact with one of the agents in his brokerage. And from there, that's really kind of what sparked that whole multifamily space, because he was a young guy that was also getting into multifamily. But I found an agent who worked with investors. He was also an investor himself. So he had the connections, and he was able to find me this deal off market. It needed a good amount of work, but we were able to get it at such a discount that it still made sense.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how we found it. And another thing I can say for anybody getting into this, look at deals consistently, because this wasn't the first deal we looked at. We looked at several, but after you spend so much time looking at them, you can figure out what's a winner and what's not. And I knew right away when I saw this that this was a winner.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was an off-market deal. And then how did you go ahead and purchase it? Did you just sort of have a standard conventional loan, or what did you do for that?
I used a renovation loan. So I used a
Okay.
home style loan, and it allows you to put the price of the renovation in the loan itself. So you don't have to come out of pocket for that.
Okay. Do you have to put anything down on those, or is it like a no down payment type of loan, or you have to come up with something?
So I had to put 5% down. And
Okay.
because it was off market, I also had to pay closing costs. But we worked something out with the seller where we upped the price a little bit so he contributed to closing costs.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, just another good point there is just getting creative with
Mm-hmm.
whatever you need to do to make the deal work, especially when you're getting started. It's just
Right.
find a way. Your point about looking at a lot of deals, so when the right deal comes across your plate, then you know when to act. To act on it, and also just having that, kind of the conviction to, okay, I found this good deal. Now I'm going to figure out how to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe tell us a little bit about what, you mentioned what some things went wrong, some things went right. What do you mean by that sort of specifically?
Yeah. One of the things I would say is, if you're using a renovation loan, even though the mortgage company is funding your renovation, it would be best to have capital up front, because there's a whole process from getting money from the bank. They have to come and do an inspection. There's paperwork.
Okay.
You have to get it signed by a contractor before they release funds to continue work. So there was multiple times where we got stopped along the project just because we ran out of funds. So you want to have capital up front. And two, do a lot of due diligence, especially on your contractor. My contractor, he's good. He does a good job. It's just the time frame that he does it in is not the best. So the project took a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah.
So, but he did a great job. So I will say that he does good work. He's just more so for the if you're kind of trying to nickel and dime and keep costs low, but don't have much of a time frame, he's good to go with. But in an investment property where time is money and every day that
Yeah.
you don't have your property rented, you're losing money, you definitely want to go with somebody that can get the job done quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to have, I think there are contractors that are more geared specifically towards investors versus contractors that are more geared towards like custom home building and things like that.
Right.
And those custom homes are going to be a slower, more meticulous process. Whereas investors, it's like you want to get in, get everything done, and then get some, because you were going to rent this out, so you want to get the tenants in there as quickly as possible so that you're making money on it. So you're house hacking this, is that right?
Yes, essentially, yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, so I'm in here now.
Okay. And everything is going well with that? You're happy with how it turned out, happy with returns and things?
Yeah. The numbers on it are good. The other house, it covers the mortgage and then some. And then I'm also renting out the other room in my unit to my brother. So all in all, I'm breaking even. So living for free. And there's also potential. Of course, I gave my brother a discount. But once we move out, which I'm not sure when that's going to be, I can raise the rent significantly higher. And I've been working with one of my friends who Airbnbs and does pad split, which we can talk about a little bit. He does both, and he's able to get great returns. So I'm planning on doing that once I move out of here.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What I'm not sure that I'm familiar with. You said PassFit?
Pad split, yeah. So
pad split. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's nationwide yet. I know they're in Georgia. I think they're in the Southeast. I'm not sure how far they've expanded. They only started about 3-4 years ago, but it's a co-living platform. So essentially, it makes it easy for you to rent each room individually. Um, there's typically better returns when you can get each room rented out individually, but there's also a lot more headaches. So a lot of investors don't like doing that. But with Passbit, they kind of take over a lot of the headache out of it, and they manage that. So you go through them, they'll find you the tenants, and you just essentially have to worry about maintaining the property. They'll handle tenant screening, they'll handle evictions, any tenant disputes, and they even have certain systems that can handle like maintenance requests and things of that nature.
Oh, okay. So it's essentially a property management type of platform.
Yeah, in a way, you still manage the property physically, but they'll handle anything dealing with the tenants. So yeah, and it's very helpful, and they take a percentage, of course.
Yeah, sure. No, that sounds reasonable. I mean, especially if you're local to it, and it's like if you don't mind having to, whether it's you fixing something or sending someone over to fix it, if they're managing the tenant side of things, I think that's very helpful.
Yeah.
So then kind of now you're venturing into the multifamily space. Was that always your intent, or large multifamily, I should say? Was that always your intent, or kind of what sent you in that direction?
So commercial real estate and large scale development was always the plan. I did not think that I'd be able to get there as quickly as I did. And that's just a testament to being in the right place at the right time, networking with the right people, and largely the pandemic. I wouldn't say that I'm the most focused person, but with there being no distractions and no opportunity to go out, I spent a lot of time last year going through those courses that I mentioned, learning how to underwrite. I think I went through maybe 25 hours of video courses online, spent a few months just meticulously every day going through those courses. And once I did that, I found the confidence to network and from there things just started taking off.
Good. Well, I mean, it's obviously the pandemic wasn't a good thing, but
Right, right, right.
you made the best of a bad situation, and use that time wisely to sort of advance yourself and become more successful. So can you walk us through that, sort of what I know that you have now a deal under contract, so I we want to tell us kind of how that came about and how that process went.
Yeah, so I got connected with Julie from Old Capital, and she connected me with two other partners. They were looking for somebody to underwrite. And it was funny because like I had just finished all my courses and just started looking at deals myself and underwriting them myself. So I didn't even have a whole bunch of confidence in myself to do it at that point. But I was speaking with them, and that's one thing I can say I appreciate I appreciate about the people that I partner with. They kind of spoke that confidence into me. I kind of told them my background, and I didn't, go in there selling myself short. I just wanted to make sure I was honest about what
Yeah.
I could do and what I couldn't do. So I told them that I had an analytical background. I was an engineer. I was working in corporate, and I could do work at a high level. But in terms of specifically underwriting, I wasn't that experienced. And they were saying, you'll be able to pick it up. You're already good with numbers. You demonstrated that. And from there, I just started looking at deals from them. Started off kind of slow. I'm looking at one deal here, two deals there. But after I started getting the hang of it, they started sending me more and more. And then after a while, it was, two, three, four deals a week, I'm able to look at, and was able to develop a system to kind of get through it quicker by looking at deals that made more sense and more detail, and the ones that didn't, I was able to quickly get those out of my sight and focus on the ones that were potential. And after about 7, 8 months of looking at deals that didn't work, it's a tough market. We had to look. I probably looked at close to 100 deals in those 7, 8 months. We found one that actually worked. The numbers kind of looked good on it, and we were able to pursue it further. And that's the deal we ended up getting under contract.
Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about the deal?
Yeah, for sure. It's a 126 unit deal in Little Rock. And great thing about it's in a good location. It's in the heart of Little Rock. And I know a lot of people may be like, why Little Rock? Nobody really thinks of Little Rock. Everybody's in Dallas or even Atlanta right now. But Little Rock, and that's one of the best things about it, because Little Rock is an emerging market. It hasn't been discovered yet. There's been a rent boom. Looking at over 3.78% average rent increase for the past 2 years, over 4% in the past year. So the rent is going through the roof. So there's definitely great opportunity, but there's not a huge rush to get into that market. So when we were bidding on it, we weren't even bidding against any of the buyer groups. So we didn't get into a bidding war. So we were able to get it under contract at just 200 grand over our original offer, which is insane. A lot of people are going well above asking at this point just to get a deal under contract. But we were able to lock this one in. We brought in the existing property management. The Trinity Management, or Trinity Multifamily, is the existing management company, and their president and CEO is one of our partners on this deal. So that means management is in aligned with the partner team to make sure that this property gets the attention it needs to be managed correctly. And we're doing a pretty good value add on it. It's already in a great neighborhood. It's near the Heights, which is one of the most historic and most affluential neighborhoods in Little Rock. And Little Rock itself has 5 major hospitals. Amazon has about $4.5 million square feet of industrial space that they just opened up in the past couple of years. And there's a growing fintech industry and multiple universities. So it's definitely a great market to be in, but we're still not, at full capacity. So there's room to grow.
Yeah. Careful, now you're going to create your own competition. You're selling Little Rock so well. It does sound great. And I think, your point about, people might say, why would you go to Little Rock? That's exactly why you would go to Little Rock.
Exactly.
Because people are, a lot of people are focused on sort of the major, huge metro markets like Atlanta and Dallas and Austin and all that. And it's the Charlotte and South Carolina. There's all the Carolinas or the cities in Carolina, and that but maybe picking one of these kind of secondary markets that hasn't quite had the boom that the other places have had yet, as long as you do the market analysis and you actually figure out, sort of all the things that you were just saying, that there's growth there, and that there's having an Amazon distribution center there is a big deal. Amazon doesn't just go there for no reason, right? It's like
Right.
you can use that information to your advantage. And so, if you get into a market before it blows up, like some of these large metros, you're going to make, better returns than someone who might buy in the more, traditional, or, whatever the more well-known markets. So yeah, good for you. I mean, that's awesome. I know you said you were the underwriter. What has your role been kind of since getting it under contract? Have you been a part of the process otherwise?
Yeah. So yeah, I started off initially just underwriting. And that's initially what I planned to do, but I have a lot of skills that I developed, and that's one thing I love about entrepreneurship and real estate is you can leverage every skill that you have to,
Yeah.
bring value and increase your profit margins. So, like I said, I mentioned I work in research and development at Coca-Cola, so I understand very much how to analyze a situation, how to research and take the data or the findings and come up with a thesis and use that thesis to develop a business plan. So from the underwriting, I was largely involved in the business plan development for the property. One, just understanding the market and what direction we need to go in. Also, one of the things that I did, I contracted a water conservation company, SAS Water Conservation, and bringing them in. And for a $77,000 one-time investment, we're looking at savings of 43,000 plus annually. So we'll be able to recoup those expenses, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And another thing that I was involved in I'm going to be involved in is capital raising. So right now I'm having conversations to be able to bring capital to the table.
Okay. No, sounds great. And I think, it sort of makes sense as the underwriter that you would also be part of, sort of the business plan formulation and execution, right? On the asset management side, you got to make sure that stuff is sort of conforming to what you underwrote. So I think it sounds awesome. I think you're doing great with that asset. And when are you supposed to get under contract? Or sorry, when are you supposed to close?
We're looking to close in July.
Awesome.
Initially, we were supposed to close in June, but due to contract issues, we had to push it back a little bit. We're closing in July.
Never goes exactly as it's planned. That's supposed to close and actually closing are very different things. Great. Are you still? I assume you're still looking and trying to come up with the next deal then.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you just kind of run into the bottleneck of time. Because I don't want to drop the ball on this deal while looking at others. So right. I'm still the underwriter for the group. So our broker relations partner, he's still sending me deals, and I'm trying my best to get to him. But it is definitely a time crunch, and that's one of the things that I'm thinking about. Looking ahead, the money that we get from the closing on this deal, I'm looking to reinvest into some of my systems. I want to be able to hire help to do a lot of this underwriting, at least like just the number crunching and data entry, some of the stuff that's more repetitive. I've also been looking at leveraging my background in engineering. In the past, when I first started working in real estate, I did a few things like leveraging Java and writing programs. So I had made a Java program that searched the county website based on the Excel doc of addresses and then pull property information. So I just created a web scraper. And now I'm doing the same thing to help with financing or managing the finances for my existing properties, so I can kind of take myself out of that part of the business and automate that. Yeah. So I'm looking at taking some of this money, investing it in ways that'll save me time because I still work a full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very, very smart. You're young, you can just take that money and, sort of put it back into to grow your business. And then at some point, then everything will be effectively automated except for the very high dollar jobs that you need to do. So that's a great strategy. Well, that's great. I mean, I'm really happy for you, Brandon. I think that sounds like things are going very, very well for you. So that's awesome. And it's been a little bit since we talked, and I'm happy to hear all this. Um, I guess I'd like to maybe just kind of ask you a few questions that I like to ask each guest.
Mhm.
And you touched on this a little bit, but I thought maybe you wouldn't mind expanding on, the name of the podcast is Know Your Why. So
Yep.
you touched a little bit on your why, and maybe kind of expand and tell us, I guess, where you see that going for you. What's your kind of long-term vision and everything of what you have in your goals.
Yes, I'm glad you asked. And I'm big on impact. Of course, a lot of people are in this industry for because it's profitable, which is all well and good. But I think impact is one of the biggest things. I'm pro-black, as you know, and I know that real estate is one of the biggest has one of the biggest impacts on our livelihood, and is also one of the biggest impacts on wealth and generational wealth. And I know that gentrification has always been looked at in a negative light for some groups and a positive light for others. And I've been in communities where we've been negatively impacted by gentrification. A lot of times people who want to invest in the community, they're not going in with ill intentions, but when you're going to invest in the community and you have no emotional attachment to the area you're investing in, then it ends up showing on the back end. You go in, you make profits, make the area look a lot nicer, but the people who live in that community may not be able to live there anymore. They may get displaced, or they don't really see the benefits that that community is seeing. So I want to make sure that as I'm focusing and growing my real estate career, my real estate company, that we don't just develop the properties and improve the look and feel of the neighborhood. I want to make sure that we gentrify the people as well. So one of the things that I'm looking for is like anytime that I'm making a profit, the community needs to be benefiting. I want to make sure that, and I want to make sure I'm actually planning on, and this is kind of in the business plan for my company, some of the proceed of the profits or a percent of the profits will always go back into the community. So right now, as we're looking for investors in Little Rock, I'm also networking with some of my frat brothers out there because I want to get involved with the community. They have community initiatives in there that I want to get involved in and take some of those earnings and invest them into a local school or invest them into a local, just, something to improve the area so that, that the area that gets developed can also go back to developing the people so that those kids growing up in that area have a chance to do better and actually stay in that area as it improves. So that's one of the big things I want to do on a small scale. And then I want to also go back to Sierra Leone and be able to develop on a large scale and essentially take the same model of using investor capital. And I want to be able to use Sierra Leone, the diaspora, because we're spread out. There's a lot of successful Sierra Leoneans, but a lot of them are not in Sierra Leone. They're in Atlanta, they're in London, they're in California. So being able to take some of that capital because they are interested in developing Sierra Leone, but they don't necessarily know how, or they may not be as connected as they were before. So I want to be that connector. I want to be that bridge that can take a lot of those resources and focus them on developing that community and make sure that we own it as the diaspora. So that's why I want to go long term with this, and I think that that same concept can be duplicated throughout Africa, and then that's gonna go. It's gonna go miles. It's gonna like be very important for to address a lot of these social and racial and inequality issues that we're seeing right now. Because when you have the capital, when you have the ownership, then you really have the power, and you don't really need anybody to help you out of your situation. You're in charge of your own destiny. So that's why I want to go with this long term, and that's what I've dedicated my life and my business to.
I just want to say that that's exactly why I started this podcast, for for that answer. That's it. That's exactly. Thank you, and I believe you will do it. And if there is any way I can be a part of it, you please let me know. I think that's amazing. I mean, it's really, I really do. I'm kind of a little bit speechless because I think that's a very, very powerful message. And that's exactly why when I wanted to start this podcast, it was because like that sort of story, that sort of passion, commitment to giving back it's what makes me want to, if I'm going to invest with other people, what makes me want to invest with them. It's what makes me want to partner with them, work with them. And I think I would imagine that's a very similar, there's a lot of people out there that would feel that way. So yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. I mean, I really,
Yeah, no problem.
one of my that might be one of my favorite answers to that question. That was great. Well, tell me something about yourself, Brandon, that maybe people don't know. I know we talked about you played football. Any other hobbies or special skills out there that would be interesting for the listener, aside
Yeah,
from saving the world?
I got two things. One is a hobby that I recently picked up. When I was a kid, I used to roller skate a lot. Well,
Okay.
actually, I won't say a lot. That's a lot because I was never that good. Just here and there, I used to roller skate. And then I picked it back up a couple years ago. And now I'm getting back into it. And so that's something I want to get very good at. And I'm making a commitment to go every weekend and get good at that. So that's one skill. So be on the lookout down the road. I'm going to be, do a few videos, show my progress in that regard.
Nice.
And
Roller
another thing,
blading or like
roller
true
skating, like at the
okay,
roller
okay,
rink,
like the real,
music
okay,
and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
real
real
old school
old
skates.
school.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I actually invested and bought my own pair, so
Nice,
I got my
nice.
own skates. And then two, another fun fact. Um, one of my favorite shows is Jeopardy, and actually, it's a family tradition in our house. Me, my mom, my brother, we used to watch Jeopardy pretty much every night, and like play with each other, answer questions. So I really like trivia. So I don't really watch TV that much. Like I haven't had cable for years. But one show that I will catch, usually if I go to recording the DVR at my mom's house, is Jeopardy, and I watch episode after episode and just play along.
I love, I love it. We used to do that as well. My mom and my brother and I would watch Jeopardy every night and just we keep score. Write down it. My mom never let us win. She won every single night. But I guess that's a good thing. Well, Brendan, how can people reach you? What's the best way to kind of connect with you? Anybody who's interested, obviously as an investor, but even just wants to kind of be a part of your like I said, very powerful message.
Yeah, so my LinkedIn is a great place to connect on a professional tip in real estate. So Brandon Dumbuya on LinkedIn. I think you have the link and you can put it in the show
Yeah, we'll
notes.
put it in the show notes.
Um, yeah, but I'm always happy to connect with people there. Um, Instagram, I'm also on Instagram. Is not as professional, and I don't plan to keep it that way. I plan to live life on Instagram.
There
So,
you go.
I mean, I don't do too much business on there, but if you just want to keep up with me and what I'm doing, feel free to follow me on there.
See
My
some skating
Instagram,
videos.
yes, you will be able to see some skating videos in the
Yeah.
near future. And that's
Perfect.
Brandon Dumbuya on Instagram. So my first and last name, no dots or anything.
Okay. All right. Well, great. We'll put that all in the show notes for sure. Final question before we get out of here. What can I or anyone listening, what can we do to help you succeed?
Well, right now, if you could send somebody who's looking to invest 100,000 or more in the Little Rock market,
Gotcha.
that'll be a great help. Other than that, I would say I'm always looking to network with people interested in the Atlanta market. If you know somebody that's interested in the Atlanta market, because even though it's high priced right now, I am planning in the near future to start reaching out to brokers more and more. Like I said, I'm born and raised here. I grew up here. I believe in the city, and I believe that it's growing even further. And I do think that even though it's pretty high priced right now, that there is opportunity if you're creative and you understand the market well enough. So if you know somebody that's interested in the Atlanta market, feel free to reach out. Even if you're not going to invest with me, just to have a conversation about it. I'm always happy to talk about Atlanta. Like, I love this city so much. So if you're interested in the Atlanta market, feel free to reach out.
Great. Brandon, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on. It's been great to hear about what you've been up to, and like I said, very, very powerful message. So I look forward to people hearing this episode. And thank you again for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, Jason. It's been great. It's
Yeah,
been great.
absolutely. All right, we're signing off, everyone.